Hey everyone, welcome back. Today let's talk about a deck that's quickly growing in popularity, the Amethyst Emerald Aggro deck. I like to call it the Mardi Gras deck or the Bounce Aggro deck. In my opinion, this has clearly become the best aggro deck in Lorcana at the moment, utilizing all of the dangerous Emerald cards that we all love and combining them with the valuable card draw and disruption tools from Amethyst. Many aggro lists live or die based on your initial hand and first few draws, and they're forced to push back against those odds with very streamlined deck lists that hyper-focus on questing turn after turn. We especially see this in Lemon Lime aggro, Emerald Ruby Evasive, and Emerald Sapphire aggro. Adding strong card draw with Amethyst means more choice and less reliance on the hand you're given, literally. But even compared to other aggro decks that do have some draw power, like Emerald Steel with A Whole New World, or Turbo Princesses with Rapunzel, Amethyst Emerald still feels stronger. Those decks still don't achieve the same reliability and consistency of card draw as the Mardi Gras deck here. Add in the bounce back abilities and quest prevention, and you get a deck that can both draw and stall as it seeks to climb up to 20 lore. This flexibility leads to more choice and skill expression in the deck, and I think the result is a deck list that stands above the other aggro lists. But more than just that, I think this deck has potential to contest for a top 5 spot in the meta. But let's actually take a look at the full list and talk through some choices. For turn 1 characters, I run 4 copies of both Olaf and Pascal. Some lists like to include the 1-cost Maleficent, and I think she can be a great addition to the deck. I'll cover her in a bit when I go over different deck options, but first let's look at Pascal. He's a mandatory addition to the deck, and although he's weak against Steel, he's a fantastic card to use against Ruby Amethyst Control and Amber Sapphire midrange, 2 top decks in the format. His repeated questing while hiding behind his evasive can quickly snowball against non-Steel decks, who can only remove him with valuable cards like Dragonfire or Let It Go. Against Steel decks, Pascal is susceptible to Giant Tink and Grab Your Sword, so you can choose to ink Pascal in favor of Olaf if you have the choice. Flynn Rider is a staple aggro 2-cost, and he's joined by Meg as another situational card. She's often held in hand and used to boost a character's strength if needed in a challenge. For 3 ink cost characters, Jasper joins Maleficent Rafiki and Cheshire Cat. At 4 willpower, he survives a lot more than other 3 costs, while creating some annoyance with his ability. But along with the other 3-cost characters, he's a great singer of Friends on the Other Side and Mother Knows Best. Turn 4 almost always consists of singing one of these 2 songs with your 3 ink character, so that's why the ink curve is so heavy on 3. At 4, the aggressive Emerald staples of Hans and Tinkerbell are joined by Jafar. He seems out of place in this deck at first, but he's a fantastic choice to help remove mid-game characters. This deck doesn't have a ton of great removal, and so he fills in that gap quite nicely. Tinkerbell is extra important here and should be prioritized over Hans. Don't overlook her strong ability. Many more decks are running evasive characters, and Tinkerbell can often be the difference maker in those matchups. Kuzco and Mad Hatter join the party as always, as well as Genie as your primary 6 ink character. Learning when and who to bounce back with a Genie is crucial to this deck, and despite his growing popularity, I think many players are still caught off guard by Genie coming down on 6 to halt the momentum of Tinkerbell, Aladdin, or another major piece on board. John Silver plays a similar role while remaining inkable and has proven to be an absolute underdog legendary card. Finally, our actions and songs speak for themselves, with Befuddle allowing an early kickback versus aggro. Keep an eye out for the rare but effective Befuddle play on your own Meg to reuse her ability. It can really catch players off guard. This is a fun deck that really feels like a bounce deck before bounce has even been released. Let's talk about some options and considerations. I mentioned Maleficent biding her time when talking about the 1 ink cost characters, and although Maleficent is quite the aggro threat, she joins Pascal in his Steel weakness without the protection of Evasive. With Olaf plus Pascal, you'll often have the choice to open with either, depending on your matchup. But I do think Maleficent is a great choice if you want to play 10 to 12 1-cost characters instead of 8, but I've left her off my list for now. She's certainly worth trying out if she sounds strong to you. Another strong contender for this deck is Yzma. She's an overlooked card that can really help set up turns 4 through 6, which are crucial turns for this deck, as many key units want to stack on board and pressure an early endgame. Yzma could be added as an additional 2 ink character or swapped in for Meg. Rafiki is my preferred rush character, but Zeus is another option, especially considering his ability to quest for 2 lore. That sounds like the clear choice for an aggro deck, but there's a few reasons I like Rafiki better. At 3 ink, he can come out sooner, and he can be played as a combo with 2-cost characters on turn 5 if needed. This is super handy for clearing out an opponent's character, while still pressuring the board with something like Flynn Rider or 2 Pascals. You can also play Rafiki plus Meg to rush 5 damage out. Rafiki's 3 cost also allows him to sing Friends on the Other Side, or Mother Knows Best on turn 4. This is super common and is one of the reasons why the deck runs so many 3 ink characters. And although Zeus's 4 strength does have important advantages, I like pairing Rafiki with Jafar Wicked Sorcerer as my removal characters. I think together they do a better job of covering the threats Zeus would normally aim to take out. I've seen a few similar lists leave out Befuddle, preferring another character in the slot. And although it does often end up as ink, I really love the flexibility of this card. It's a great card to keep in your opening hand, especially if you're on draw and want to get ahead on board. Finally, if you want a more mid to late game focused list, consider bumping John Silver up to 3 or 4 copies. He's a fantastic card that can disrupt a lot of in-game characters. My list is a bit more early focused, so I run 2, but adding more is definitely a great way to strengthen the back end of the deck. Alright, here's a look at the full list again. This is a super solid deck that I think we'll be seeing a ton of over the next few weeks. It puts a lot of pressure on control decks without the typical aggro weakness of running out of steam, and the back-to-hand bounce elements add outplay potential in mid-range matchups, which can be very tough for aggro decks. And I'm excited for this style of deck to grow even stronger going into set 2. But for now, we'll jump into some gameplay of the deck. But if you've enjoyed the video so far, make sure to like and subscribe. Alright, let's see the deck in action. Alright, we got a lot of card draw, which I like. 2 through 4. Let's see what else we can get. Alright, we got a lot of card draw. It's pretty good. Ooh, especially against Ruby. Let's see. I think we definitely play Pascal here. If you're against Ruby Amethyst, or just kind of Ruby in general, Pascal's really good. Because they don't have that many early game characters that they want to throw on board. And even if they did, you know, evasive and everything. Got lots of card draw, which is usually really, really good. But in this matchup, I kind of just want to quest as fast as possible. So, you know, I kind of wish this was maybe Cheshire Cat. The card draw is especially good against Amber because Amber loves to play You Have Forgotten Me. We gotta watch out for Rafiki and turn 5 Maui. And then obviously the Be Prepared on turn 7. Ursula. So yeah, he's rightfully inking and discarding all his late game stuff because he's got to focus on shutting me down early. I'm a little afraid of the big Aladdin popping out. So instead of singing this right now, I'm gonna trade here. I don't want him singing Friends and getting more options, finding Be Prepared and all that. So instead of singing it myself, I'll do this. Prevent the big Aladdin. from stopping my progress. I also thought about trading the Pascal into the Maleficent, but yeah. So he's saying with Aladdin, that's what he would have done with Maleficent. So I just assume that he might have the big guy. I am actually pretty afraid of the Aladdin though, so let's do this. Feels kind of weird. Feels very weird, but I think it's the right choice. Remember, he's probably gonna be prepared on turn 7, so I'm really stocking up my choices for after that drops. We'll see. I think I'm going to stay at 5 ink. Go to 8. See if he's tempted to drop Be Prepared. There's an argument for going faster, in case he hasn't found it yet. Alright. So next turn he could drop down Heroic Outlaw plus Pocket Watch. Let me just see what he does with this situation. Alright. It's probably a good time to do that. Let's get rid of Meg. Next turn I'm happy to drop Genie. Now that he has Mirror, he's going to be able to find what he needs, so I gotta close this out. Throw back Aladdin. It feels kind of bad because he'll come down and reduce my lore again, but if he's gonna throw Heroic Outlaw into Cheshire Cat, I want him to spend all his mana. Okay. It's fine with me. Let's don't want to go to 7. I can always go to 7 next turn. The problem is you don't want to actually summon multiple things on the board, because you want them to get the least amount of value out of Be Prepared as you can. This is a pretty good turn to Genie, just because if I do, they can't take out Mad Hatter without using Pocket Watch. Feels kind of bad to hit Ursula, but it essentially means he wasted the majority of his last turn with this ink. So let's see if this might get a Dragonfire out of him. That's probably the ideal response. I mean, To draw 2 cards. John Silver is pretty good against Ursula. I could also use Mother Knows Best if I had to. Alright, so here, because I have Flynn, Flynn's kind of easy to toss in. Ink Hans. Hans isn't too great, he just dies immediately to Rafiki. So looks like he doesn't have or doesn't want to play Be Prepared, because he could just sing it with Ursula. Might be scouting for it with these draws. Pascal's really good, actually, because if he doesn't have Be Prepared, sometimes they'll have to even use like a Dragonfire or something silly on it. Let's see. I'm gonna go a little hard here. See if he has it. I kept back Pascal. I don't want to go too hard. But let's just say he had 2 Dragonfires. For like these 2. And he could still take out John Silver. I still have not quite lethal, but... So I guess I could have played Pascal for lethal, but... There's a good chance he draws Dragonfire. He's only used... I mean... Be Prepared, he's only used 1. Alright, well. That's his other option. Not a bad one at all. Just gotta do something else though, right? I still have it. Alright, we took down a control deck. That's pretty good. Alright, well that was our Amethyst Emerald aggro deck. I'm glad I got to show off the Amethyst Ruby control matchup some. I managed to win there, but I do think control still has the strong edge in the head-to-head, but they're certainly not unbeatable. So try out this deck and see what you think. I love that it's relatively easy to build and pilot, but it also offers some deeper skill choices that pushes its limits. Well, let me know what deck you'd like to see in my next video. Stay tuned. See you then.